What's up, ladies and gentlemen, it's Scythe and Tignrod, and today I am presenting to you what everyone has been requesting for so long, my Draw My Life. Yes, that's right, you can probably hear it in my voice. I have actually been up all night relentlessly, tirelessly, pushing myself forward so that I could get this Draw My Life finished today, so that all of you can have it as my New Year's gift to you, I guess, or something like that. I actually wanted this ready last week, but then my computer ended up messing up and everything like that, so it's a little bit late, and I hope that you all enjoy it. I had to pull an all-nighter, like straight up. It took a lot more editing and work than I thought it would, and in the end, I hope that you all like it. Let's start with where I grew up. I grew up in Winnipeg, which, for all intents purposes, just consider the entire city as one gigantic ghetto slum. Seriously, I'm talking about a very, very dangerous place. Not as dangerous as like some of the bigger cities in Canada, but considering how small it was, crime was rampant, and we grew up in the north end, which was one of the harshest ends of the city. You can imagine how difficult it would be for a family of dreamers that, you know, has really high ambitions for ourselves and stuff like that. That didn't stop Johnny and me from growing up and having friends in the neighborhood and stuff like that, but eventually as we got older and they got older, it kind of boiled down to them going into gangs and us moving away from that and kind of keeping our own lives together. So Johnny and me through that became very close to one another. Next was school. We ended up growing up in a pretty, well, I wouldn't say it was rich, because there's not really anything rich in Winnipeg except for some specific areas. But ultimately, school wasn't as harsh as the area that we actually ended up growing up. For the most part, though, I never really agreed with the way that the school systems worked. Even at a young age, I always had a hard time kind of fitting in and stuff. I mean, I had like my peers and everything like that, but overall, I just generally never really got used to school. And eventually, our parents acknowledged that and pulled both of us out, so we got homeschooled. And one of the things that I remember, which was always fun for me, was whenever we would do like a field trip and stuff, and it was set up with like a bunch of other homeschool kids, and that was always really cool and interesting to see. Of course, there had to be some form of entertainment aside from all the education stuff, and that's where video games came in. I grew up with video games, man. Like, I've always been into it since I can remember, like from way back when we had the NES and played Mario, which was actually our earliest system. I know a lot of other people started with Atari and stuff like that. We never really grew up with any of those, but I got right into it. Even when I was small, I remember that I would always like research the latest games through magazines and stuff like that. And once the internet came around, I used to be really on the ball with, you know, what was happening at E3, getting hyped about things that were promised in games and what was going to happen. I knew when games were going to come out on release based on memory. So, you know, people would ask me, it's like, hey, when is this coming out? Well, it comes out this time, right? The biggest learning curve, for lack of a better word for myself, was when Fable 1 came out. I was hyped as I could ever be. Like, that was the pinnacle of hype that I ever got for any video games ever, with the amount of features that it promised. And although the game, looking at it as far as the game is concerned, I still really did enjoy Fable 1, but anyone who was a part of that crowd knows that it was an extreme letdown and could never live up to what it promised to be. And that kind of put things into perspective for me for gaming as well as life, where I don't really get into the hype as much anymore, and I'm able to take things for how they are on the surface rather than all the speculation surrounding it. One of the problems with being homeschooled, though, is that you're not with a classroom around, so your social life is pretty closed off when at first, like at least for us, especially living in such a harsh neighborhood where you couldn't really go outside that often, right? But that didn't stop us from going out and socializing, and me especially. Like, it's like, I know when I was younger, I had this fantasy. I would always say, like, it's like, oh man, I can't wait to see how outgoing I am when I'm 30, you know? And one day it kind of hit me where I think the reason that I said when I'm 30 was because it was kind of unattainable, because I actually used to be a very shy, introverted type of person where I would have all these ideas and thoughts and stuff, but I wouldn't really, I had a hard time expressing them. And one day when it hit me that that was just an excuse, I started hitting it hard with Johnny about like socializing and trying to break out of my shell. One of the biggest things that was an influence on my life was that my dad has always been into bands and stuff like that when I was small, so it made perfect sense that Johnny and me ended up getting into music. And that was one of the biggest things that helped us with our social skills, because, I mean, what better than to go and be a front man and you're supposed to be all entertaining and stuff, right? Which I think is also responsible for a lot of my personal experience when I jumped into Let's Plays and commentating, is because I was able to know the difference between stepping it up to 11 for the videos and shows and stuff like that, as opposed to, like, it took a long time to actually learn that, because at first, like, my stage presence was not good, but eventually we ended up seeing, like, a video of ourselves and realizing, wow, we are not as entertaining as we thought we were. So you kind of have to overdo it in order to get the appearance that you want. After that, our band kind of got as big as it could get in Winnipeg. You know, we played shows in front of like 200, 300 people, and it was a lot of fun when we did that stuff, you know? Like, we ended up making a lot of friends that were in other bands, and we joined other bands and stuff, and then eventually we knew that even though we kind of had ourselves established there, we had to move. So that was one heck of a long process, and through it, I think, like, commentating and stuff kind of was a coping mechanism, you know? Like, I really got into watching other Let's Players while we were moving, because we didn't really have much opportunity for shows with the band and socializing and stuff. Our friendships kind of started closing off and everything like that as we got prepared and got more and more busy. I couldn't name specifically how many other Let's Players that I'd watched during that time, but I remember watching Syndicate when he was playing Minecraft, and I kind of stopped watching him after he moved away from Minecraft, and now he swears like crazy. I remember back when he wasn't even 18, so he wasn't really swearing, and then he ended up growing up, and now he swears constantly, and I just kind of lost interest. And through that, I ended up finding Etho, BOO, and all the other Minecraft people and Let's Players, and I got really into them as like a group of people and stuff. Etho, especially at first, was who I was into out of all of them. Because, you know, he tries to keep his content clean and stuff like that. And then eventually I moved over to BOO. I think he's my favorite YouTuber because he reminds me a lot of myself. Like, his sense of humor is very similar to mine, in that he likes to pretend that he's dumber than he is, you know? And I've always found that that was like the most entertaining form of comedy, is to make fun of yourself, because then you're not offending anybody else. Like, I've never cared for offensive humor. Offensive humor works for some people, and it's, you know, it's not that it's not entertaining in its own way, but I always thought that bringing people up was a lot better than bringing people down. And if you're gonna bring anybody down, I mean, do it to yourself, because it's like, if you're confident enough in yourself and a confident individual, then you'll be able to make fun of qualities of yourself without it actually being like some serious deep-rooted issue or something, you know? So, needless to say, I got really into BOO, but one of the things that I started noticing with a lot of Let's Players out there is the general lack of energy. Now, it's not that other people are lacking energy, it's that I, as a person, am very high energy, and I noticed that a lot of Let's Players and entertainers and stuff like that never really let themselves go crazy. Or maybe it's that I'm crazy and they're kind of calmer, more relaxed people, right? So one day it hit me, hey, I can do this myself, you know, and if there's anyone that's gonna be able to do crazy, it's me. And after that, it, you know, took a little bit of setting up and stuff like that. But otherwise, I started my first Let's Play of Far Cry 3. Looking back, that series was very much in the vein of PewDiePie and stuff like that. Now, I never, ever have actually watched PewDiePie. I check out his videos from time to time just to see what the top entertainer in all of YouTube is up to, you know, and, you know, there's good influence there. Anyway, my first series was Far Cry 3, and it was very similar to his style, where it was kind of like each episode was its own montage. That series was like a 50-series montage, and it was a lot of work for me at the time. That's for darn sure. Like, I started out very ambitious with that, and editing was something that I knew I wanted to put into my videos. Now, since then, I kind of moved away from the choppiness, cut comedy timing that I used to have, and rather than cutting out the silence, I got a lot better at filling the silence. You know what I mean? So soon after, I ended up starting my Turok 2 Let's Play, and that one was a game changer for me. That one kind of made me have my first fans and my first people that were actually commenting and interacting and enjoyed the game as much as I did. Halfway through the Turok series, I ended up coming to a decision that I didn't want to swear in my videos. I wanted to make it all G-rated, and it's because the reason that I actually ended up doing that is because I think there is far too much swearing out there as far as videos and stuff is concerned. Like, too many times will I be watching like someone doing a Minecraft video and then they'll get killed by a creeper and they drop an F-bomb, and it's like, whoa, man, there's little kids watching this. This is a kid's game, so swear appropriately or just not at all. I figured that one day I'm gonna have kids and I don't want to be swearing when they're around, right? So Let's Plays have actually been a life-changing experience for me in more ways than I can even count. When I actually was doing my Turok series was when I ended up meeting Scarlett, who is my fiance now. And at first we started out as friends for maybe about a year or so, and then we started dating, and since then it's been the best relationship of my life. I love doing videos with Johnny. When I started bringing him into them, it really stepped up the game and made things a lot more exciting. At first we were doing just random Monday multiplayer videos, and then we did Diablo and Secrets of Evermore, and I mean, the rest of it's kind of history at this point, but ultimately that's pretty much my life, man, and it's been one heck of a ride, and I am very excited to see what happens in the future.